Right. So, welcome to our live virtual class session on today, Thursday, July 29th. And let me share my screen here. And actually, I'm in the wrong class. Okay. So, of course, we are using Thursdays as a time to really sort of work together, collaborate with one another. Of course, we have to have students in here to be able to do that. Of course, you two are in here and ready to go. Are there any questions that you have about anything so far in the class? I guess we'll start there. And remember, you have to take yourself off mute.
I don't, for as far as me, I don't think so. As of right now, everything's been pretty smooth.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you're finding all of your assignments on Blackboard. You're
Mhm.
able to launch them. Everything's working for
Mhm.
you. Okay. All right. Thanks, Casey. What about you, Sheree?
Well, I was wondering, from last week, I did not use my time wisely, so I have a few assignments that I did not turn in. So I
Hmm.
will be turning them in late, but um, I was wondering, would that be open this week?
Yes, all of your assignments, except voice threads, will be available.
Okay.
Now, once we get we're into Microsoft Access or that number three, develop simple databases unit. For this unit, you have a project to complete. And so if you're late with the project, which this unit isn't due until August the 8th, but
Okay.
from now on, if you're late with projects, it will mark off, a certain percentage of
Okay.
your grade for being late. But your sim books are available. They're unlimited attempts. You can basically turn them in anytime. The voice threads, they have to be turned in on time because it takes me a lot of time to grade those. Um, but, you can definitely do all of your, sim book activities.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great question. Any other questions? Anything going on that I should know about? Because we had several that came like the first couple of weeks, and now we're sort of dwindling down in numbers. So is there anything going on that I guess I should be made aware of? Or if anyone knows, I have no idea. Um, well, hopefully they will at some point get into the class and go into, like, for this week and next week we'll be in the develop simple databases unit. um, so if folks are not showing up for the class, they can definitely still be in tune with the class by watching the recordings of our virtual class sessions. So each class that we meet, it's recorded and a link is put in there so that you can go back and watch it if you just happen, things come up. So if you have to miss, then of course, go into that area and watch what you missed. Okay. Um, and I guess that's it. Any other questions? Do I need to cover anything? Anything confusing for you or okay. So Cherie, how was your experience using um using the links to the assignments to get into SimNet. Did everything work for you?
Yeah, I mean, everything is pretty much there on the blackboard, so I was able to go in there, but I haven't been using my time. My
Yeah.
time, I definitely, and that's what I was so upset with myself. So I was like, I have to use my time a little bit more wisely. So that's my little dilemma here, because I'm like, me and my son have to be at our events at 10 o'clock. So I have to be here at class, and then he has to be at camp at 10. So
Oh,
I'm
wow.
rushing to get back home so I can get in class. So that's
Bless your heart.
normally, yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I have to use my time wisely. So that's definitely what I'm
Hmm.
planning on doing this week.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and that's really what I tried to accomplish at the beginning of class, to try to get everyone to have a semester plan, a plan of attack, meaning a time that you're going to work on the class, to get the assignments completed, because it's easy to put it off. And I know because, I was a college student as well. Um, and it's easy to put off work, that, we like, oh, I can do that later. But if you plan it where you have a set time to do the work, um, and you are not, you know, you're unmovable with that time frame. So if that's 2 hours a day, or for 4 days a week, or 2 days a week at 4 hours each, you just sit down and plow through as much that you can get through. That's really how you're going to be successful. Um, and there are some students in this class who have never attended one session, but they're doing the work. Um, so, and that's possible, but you got to have a plan. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing. So for this particular unit, um, it's important that we know how to create and use a database, because databases are everywhere. Okay. So in this final instructional document here, importance of databases in our society, I gave you pretty much a list of the types of things that everyone uses, you know, at some point during their day, whether that's social media, streaming media, search engines, your mobile device, any of these things. All of them are database driven. So we don't necessarily think of them as database, related to a database. But even email, we wouldn't be able to get into email if there wasn't a database behind it all, storing our information. Okay. So I know for me, I have thousands and thousands and thousands of emails, um, on my email account, and it couldn't be stored unless there was a database behind it. Okay. So that's how you're able to see, say, for instance, sent items, deleted items, things like that. And even to create folders. Now, I've been using email for years and years and years, so I sort of, you know, organize my emails, into folders. So if I have to keep something, I will, just move it into a folder. And so that's all database. Okay. And so when you right click, say, for instance, on inbox, and there is a create new subfolder button, that's how you create a new folder to store emails that you may need later. I know years ago, some of my students would just automatically delete any email that they just deemed that they never needed again. And then they didn't know that they needed it. So, but they deleted it. So, one way to get it out of your inbox but still keep it is to create a new subfolder. So, I'm just going to click on create new subfolder here, and you see it opens a box where you can actually type in, and I'm just going to type in CIT 105 and LUL, okay, and use the enter key. And it basically looks like it goes away, but what it does is it goes down here in my list. Okay, but if you only have one folder, it's going to appear immediately, right? Now, you would think that it would find its way down the list. Okay, so here's the one. I already had a CIT 105 one, but here's the one. It put itself in alphabetical order. Okay, so it goes in alphabetical, first numerical, and then alphabetical order. So I had some folders up here that have numbers on them first. Okay, so they come first and then the letters begin. Okay, so we can see the A's begin there. So inside of our CIT 105 LUL, there's nothing there, right? And so what we can do is we can then click and drag email messages from our inbox into that folder. And Troy, I'm going to use your acceptance here to the meeting and drag it over. So I'm just going to scroll down and see the LUL here. I'm going to take Troy's acceptance of our meeting and just click and drag it over to LUL. Okay. And you see how it sort of highlights itself a little bit. And then you see a little screen tip that says one item. So that lets you know that you can move more than one item to a subfolder that you've created under inbox. And so now if I click on it, there is Troy's acceptance of the meeting. So that's how you basically would organize your inbox. Okay, so all of this stuff is everything that we use, even on our mobile devices, all those apps that we use. The only way that it can save your information is there's a database behind it, and that database is storing your user information. Okay, so what do you guys think about that? Did you ever think about that before?
I've never known it existed, so I'm definitely going to use that because I can organize my emails because the emails are overwhelming. They are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is the first time. Funny enough, this is only the first class of multiple classes I've taken, but this is the first class for some reason at the beginning of the start of this class. I did make a folder in my email. So I was like, okay, you know what sounds good? To organize all the emails per class, syllabus and everything in their own folder. So,
Right.
this is the first time I thought about that, but it's also the first time you showed me this, which is a lot easier than, finding it and sorting it and whatnot. So thank you. It definitely has been
Mhm.
working out way better than how it usually goes, which is they're just all over the place.
And that's easy to do, right? Because we're busy, right? We're so busy doing everything that we basically get nothing done or leave everything undone, right? So and I'm guilty of that as well. It takes a lot of discipline to create folders and put files in folders or put emails in folders. So but once you get used to it, it's it's like a habit. Once you do it multiple times, it's a habit and it just automatically happens. But even I still have to go back and move emails into their appropriate place. And and that's just one example of, how we're using databases in our day-to-day lives. But here, this is an awesome example, a list of ways that we never really thought about how databases are so in our lives, sort of intertwined in everything that we do. Um, a lot of people like to use Amazon. Oh my gosh, if there were not database capabilities, Amazon would not even be a thing. You know what I'm saying? Websites, you couldn't buy anything on a website if there wasn't like a database behind it. You could probably buy 5 items, but at some point, whoever's selling those have to have some way to tell who bought it, what their address is to be able to send them their products, um, to attach prices to products. So without just those simple things, you know, just a database to hold all of that, we wouldn't have some of the luxuries that we have today. So, and people don't realize it until someone explains, hey, this is what you're doing. um, and so the same with VoiceThread. Okay. um, you know how we've been using VoiceThread, you've been leaving your comments, things like that. That would not be possible if there was not a database that was holding your user information on VoiceThread. You see all your comments with your little tile on it with your initials, and that wouldn't be possible if there wasn't a database that was storing all of that information. So it's pretty neat stuff. Okay. Also on this final instructional document in the Develop Simple Databases unit, it talks about, the objects inside of a database. Okay. And as long as you remember what those objects are and what they do, then you're good to go. A table, of course, is the most important. Okay. Just like your Windows operating system is the most important software on your computer. The table is the most important object in the database. And that is because it stores all the data. And if you don't have a place to store the data, then why would you query the data? Why would you search through the data? Why would you report? What would you have to report if you didn't have data to report? So, and then of course the form, and you have an example of a database form when you go to Google, right? That google.com, that open text box here, okay? This is their form. And that form leads to, a series of databases. But, this is your way of interacting with their databases. Okay, so this is considered to be an online version of their form. Okay. But the form basically, searches through the data that's in a table. How do you search through the data? You use queries. So every single time that you do a search on google.com, okay, you're sorting through the data. You're actually using a query. Okay. So a query can actually search through the data in a that resides in a table. But if you look at the query in Microsoft Access, it looks exactly like a table. Okay, it's in datasheet view, which datasheet view looks a lot like Microsoft Excel. And more people are familiar with Microsoft Excel than anything. Okay. All right. I'm just now seeing your message, Casey. But sure. Oh, Shanae, You have to go already? Okay. All righty. Okay. So, are there any questions about anything so far? Any questions? Well, what I wanted to do is give you a moment to kind of, discuss you know, with other students. And of course, you two are the only ones in here, it looks like, because Shanae just had to leave. Um, but just discuss um, how you might use a database in your everyday life that you never really thought about before. Um, what are some ways that, you didn't think about it before, but it may be database driven? Just looking from the list provided here. Let me scroll up a little bit. Any of these things, sort of ring a bell for you of things that you've used before?
I'll tell you the only thing I never thought about honestly any of these using databases, as a basis, even though I know everything is like coding in HTML format at the end of the day. But I never thought about it. But one way in which specifically I never thought to use a database that has been suggested to me and given me the opportunity, I just haven't done it yet, is for budgeting. I have friends who use like a budgeting spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet,
Hmm.
and every single month they plan out their budgeting. It calculates how much money they're supposed to spend, how much they shouldn't spend, overspend, all of this, and it helps them to keep their budget in line every month. And they gave that spreadsheet to me, and I see how it would be very beneficial. I haven't done it yet, of course, but that was one way I didn't think about because it helps her. That's how she keeps like all of her budgeting expenses in line, and it actually does it. So that's
Hmm.
in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there are tons of different apps that do that same thing. That's an example in Excel, and Excel itself is really like a data sheet. And what I mean by data sheet is columns and rows. Okay. Um, but there are also, say, for instance, in Microsoft Access, you could create a budget, a budgeting sort of program that would do the exact same thing that an Excel worksheet would do. You know what I'm saying? Um, but yeah, there are tons of programs out there that deal with budgeting. If you've ever heard of QuickBooks, Peachtree,
I've heard
you
of
know,
those things. I have no idea how to use them, but I've heard of
yeah,
them.
yeah. Well, a lot of them now are cloud applications, so you don't
Mhm.
necessarily have to download the applications anymore. You
Mhm.
still can, but you don't have to. You
Right.
could use it in the cloud. You can store, all of your data out there. I know that maybe maybe 10 years ago, I was financial secretary at my church, and all of their records were in, like a ledger. So I converted everything to QuickBooks, and
Mhm.
even the payroll for the church's employees.
Mhm.
I did it right through QuickBooks.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Good for you.
yeah. And I mean, it's really not that complex of a software.
Mhm.
Just like anything, you just have to get in there and sort of play around with it. Now, I didn't go to school to learn how to use QuickBooks. I never
Right.
had a class that taught me QuickBooks, but I got in there and just sort of figured it out. Of course, my prior knowledge helps, you know what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
that's really how you're going to get any experience with any of these applications is you just have to get in there and click around and see, read the instructional materials, and see what how do I use this, and how do I make this relevant for this organization that I'm working for. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, there's tons of applications out there just like that. Um, so, but thank
One day I'll use one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What about you, Sheree? Anything you see on this page that kind of
Well,
rings a bell for you?
I'm a shopper, so all of these things ring a bell. But um,
Yeah.
it's definitely convenient. I do love the fact that things are organized for us nowadays, as far as these sites, as
Mhm.
far as shipping and shopping. It's very convenient. So I do love the fact that we have a lot more things open from years ago to now. It's a big difference. So
Mhm.
I do enjoy it because, I don't really care too much for going inside of stores. So actually having things at home where I can just click, go pick up, it's just so convenient. Plus, it helps me budget. I'm not buying stuff I don't need.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. I was thinking as you were talking, when I was in college, this was some 30 years ago. Um, I remember, websites were something new. You know what I'm saying? That's sad to say, but it was. Um, and then we've sort of morphed into websites are essential now. You know what I'm saying? Like, could you imagine a world where we didn't have a Walmart.com or an Amazon.com? Um, Used to be we only had malls to go to or stores to go to, and they were in our local area. Um, but I can't imagine it now, although I lived through it, you know, because it's so convenient, as you said. It really has revolutionized the way we live,
Oh, yeah.
and think about it with this whole COVID kind of thing, going on where, just being in one another's actual presence can be a danger without, you know, this technology, we wouldn't be able to do the things that, you know what I'm saying? We would still sort of be endangering one another by doing in person stuff. And so it really has revolutionized the way that we live today. What about with social media? Do either of you use social media at all?
I mean, I have it, but I don't like to get myself linked in with it because I just feel like people drown themselves out with that social media. So I don't
Mhm.
want to interact with it as much as I see people do because I just feel like they're losing themselves. So I try to draw myself back from it.
Wow, that takes discipline.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. So I'm like, I don't, I have it, but I don't try to make it a part of my life because I like to keep
right.
my life separate and private. And I feel like
Right.
with social media, everyone knows what you're doing. And
Oh
I
my
don't want.
gosh. Yes, yes. And I had to pull myself back because I was on there all day, every day, just, posting and now I got it, to where I may be on there maybe twice a week. And one time I left it
Hmm.
alone. One time I left it alone completely, you know what I'm saying, for several months, but then I have different businesses on social media. So I had to go out there and post up new products and stuff. Um, but yeah, it can be overwhelming and can sort of take over. What were you saying, Troy?
I was saying yes, you was posting a lot.
Right.
No, no,
Right.
no,
Yeah. No,
no,
it can
no.
become addictive, right?
Yeah, it's easy because I have a tendency now not to use it as much because I don't really go into getting into. I just normally just use it to read people's comments because most people's comments on a lot of posts give me life. So I'm more of one of those persons. I'm a comment reader, and I post
Yeah.
only very little myself. But it's so easy to get consumed in social media.
Hmm. But you can think back in, gosh, the MySpace days. This was before Facebook. Um, People were mesmerized by MySpace, and then what's his name? that owns Facebook. I know it starts Zuckerberg. He actually wanted to sell Facebook to MySpace, and MySpace turned him down. And look, all this time later, he is multiple billionaire, um, and MySpace is all but in the past. It still exists, but
Yeah.
there aren't as many people on MySpace as what used to be. Everyone's either on Facebook, Instagram, and then, of course, the younger people are on Twitter and Snapchat. And gosh, there's so many now. But
Facebook started out as you had to have a college email account to join Facebook.
Right.
And I was on it many years ago, but it wasn't a lot. All my friends wasn't in college, so I wasn't really utilizing Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember joining Facebook in 04. Was it 04 or 06? And there wasn't as many people on it. And then something happened between, I'd say, 2010 and 2012, where everyone was on it, and you were like, whoa, what happened? And so
it was kind of cool, like the way they used the college's database of a student's account, and then how he set it up to, when we're talking about databases, how you had to have a .edu email account, which came from a college's database. It's kind of cool talking about databases.
Yeah, yeah. And so, how many of you have actually did like Uber or Lyft before? Like, yeah, like I have too. I've left my car at home and actually took an Uber or a Lyft. Maybe it was a day I didn't feel like driving. But once you get into the vehicle, they have their mobile apps. They don't actually, have them in hand while they're driving, but they're somewhere stationed in their car, in their vehicle, and they're able to, you know, get directions, okay, most likely from Google Maps. But and they are interacting with the app, right? The Uber or the Lyft app that's basically confirming that you're, as a passenger, you're in the car. Okay. As I told you at the beginning, these little devices here, these mobile devices, they, they have the same power that they had back in the 60s when they powered someone to the moon, astronauts to the moon. So these devices are super powerful, okay? And we carry them around with us every single day. Some of us even sleep with them, right? So, um, you know, these devices, they're chock full of databases. Okay, these mobile devices. I can't really see it too well, but um, you know, just think about your banking app. Um, if any of you do banking with your mobile device, meaning you're checking your account, you're seeing if your deposit hit, you know, all of that is database driven. Okay, when you look up an address, or ask Siri or Google Assistant, where is this location to this particular place, whether it's Big O Tires or Ruth Chris Steakhouse. I mean, if you are doing a search, that's a query. You're talking into your phone. That's a query. That's a database action. So your device is database driven. Period. It's database driven. Okay. There's so many different databases that it interacts with, in the cloud, of course, but it still is interacting with databases to get you that sort of functionality. So, again, nobody ever really thought about it or thinks about it, right? But it's still, something that happens. Now, have you ever heard of DuckDuckGo before? DuckDuckGo. It's a search engine um, just like Google, okay, where you can, you know, search for anything online, right? But the difference is, you see this here, it says tired of being tracked online, we can help. So basically, what's happening is every time that you search for something on DuckDuckGo, you don't have to worry about ads popping up later for you on social media or, other sites that you use because, the search engine is not tracking where you're going. Okay. Um, so duckduckgo.com is a pretty neat little tool there. And of course, there are plenty of other search engines. Cherie, did you have your hand up?
I did.
Sure.
I had a question about so I guess so you had said that they track you. So that's the reason why you have all these little sites popping up that you normally use to kind of like
Mm-hmm.
wheel you in. Is that what that's about?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because I always wondered that, like, why is this site popping up and I shouldn't go to it, but then I click and then something for me to shop. So I just
Right. Oh, your microphone went off.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was wondering how they would know, what sites you normally like to go to.
Yes, Google is tracking everything that you search on. Period. And but DuckDuckGo does not. So you could actually search on stuff, using DuckDuckGo, and you wouldn't have to worry about that same thing appearing on your timeline in Facebook, you know, um, or on social media or in other places. Sometimes I get ads in email in my Gmail account for things that I've searched for on my mobile device, and I'm like, I didn't search for that. But then I had to think, okay, Sherry, duh, that's what databases do. And so it's just, and then of course your like my laptop, I use my private email on my laptop, right? And so my private email is also on my mobile device, if you can see that. And so sometimes I'll get, ads on my mobile device that I never looked up anything on my mobile device, but because I'm using my email address, my Google email address on my laptop, it also shows up on my mobile device. Okay. So, yeah, it's the whole thing is to get you to spend more money. That's basically what it's all about. Okay. But talk a little bit more amongst yourselves, you know, about how you maybe use all of these different things. Just look through the list and just talk a little bit about maybe how you have used some of these things.
Well, I personally have probably used majority of them. Definitely number one, probably all of them. Two, probably all of them. Three, definitely Lyft and Uber. Four, I've seen the DuckDuckGo, but I didn't know that's what it was for. I didn't know it's because it was untrackable. That's a new thing I learned today. Um, Google's, that's my main. So, that's my main search engine. Five, I definitely have an iPhone. I've had plenty of iPhones. Six, I have
Well,
Spectrum. Hmm.
well, before you go to six, so
Hmm.
which one do you like better, iPhone or
iPhone.
okay,
Yeah.
and why?
See, and it's weird because I don't like Macs. I've always been a PC person. I do not like Macs. Not compatible. I'm very much a techie, but
Mhm.
Macs just do not. The buttons, it's just a lot going on. But iPhones, they're more efficient, smoother, efficient, screen display quality. clearly the camera. That's really what I get it for, the camera.
Yeah, my
You
nephew
know,
said that too. He
oh
wants the
yes.
camera on those.
Oh, because I can take me some good photos. So, I gotta have me a good camera. I wait for every other iPhone because I'm like, okay, it's worth it just for the camera. I don't need the phone, but I do need that camera. So it's about every other phone I do. And the efficiency between people as far as communicating is so much more efficient, I guess, with iMessage because you can just really text message or receive text messages from anybody, like basically
Mm,
anywhere, as long as you have some Wi-Fi. So
mhm.
that's very convenient. It just seems more convenient and efficient to me. iPhones do than Androids do. I've had, all my phones were Androids, like I guess in middle school technically and like high
Mhm.
school. And I never thought I would have an iPhone. So once I got my first one, I'm like, okay, this is cool. I've been hooked since. I can't go back. There's no going back.
I hear you. I hear you. What about you, Cherie?
I use a lot of this stuff, a lot of these sites on here, mainly the Netflix. I use that for my daughter to watch different
Mhm.
kind of shows.
Mhm.
Lyft, normally I use that when I'm out of town because I don't like to, have a car when I'm downtown because it costs you so much to park. So,
Right.
and iPhone, I'm new to. I've always been an Android, but I'm new to iPhone. So normally the kids are kind of teaching me what to do, but it's very
Mhm.
convenient because I can kind of just send texts if somebody's close to me and they can accept it. Or really, I had got it because I wanted a really good phone with the camera because I had just had a daughter. So
Okay.
I knew I'd be taking a lot of pictures. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
now I'm actually
cool.
trying to figure out like what could I do with my pictures, to kind of make a little folder for that because I have a lot of pictures.
Yeah. Yeah.
I highly
Yeah.
suggest, as a database, Google Drive is the most efficient database I have come across ever since I started using it because it was very much lots of Google. It took me forever to use Google Chrome. I don't even know why. But then I got to Google Drive, eventually because people used it and whatnot. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't know what this is
Mhm.
about, but whatever. Google Drive is the most efficient, probably one of the most efficient apps you could ever have ever for anything,
Okay.
including photos, files, documents, anything. Not only is it
Mhm.
easy to share, upload it, download it from anywhere. I would highly recommend for that. As far as
Right.
making
And
folders too,
yeah, and to get a Google Drive, only thing you have to do is get the email. So you just simply go to gmail.com and, sign up for, a Google account. Okay. So that's, it's pretty neat to have. And then once you get into your account, you simply go to Drive. This is your Google Drive. And Google Drive has all of, you know, some of the similar apps that we use, right? So let's say here, once it comes up, it's taking forever. But um, so let's see. I tried to click on new. Okay, so we have Google Docs. So Google Docs is like Microsoft Word. Okay. Google Sheets is like Microsoft Excel. Google Slides is like PowerPoint, Microsoft PowerPoint. Okay. But all of these are apps that are in the cloud. So if I go to Google Docs, you'll see a blank page and you'll see here untitled document where you can actually put in the file name. Okay. But this actually looks a lot like how Microsoft Word used to look. Okay. So it used to have the file edit view insert, these menus. Okay. These are called cascading menus. And so do you see it when it has an arrow on it? There's a whole nother little cascading menu basically that appears to give you more options. Okay. But the same kind of thing as what happens in, say, for instance, Microsoft Word, with the tabs, okay? And the tabs basically open up ribbons now in Microsoft Word. Well, in Google Docs, it's still the same old cascading menu format that Microsoft Word used to use. So But and this is how you would give the name, give the file a name. Okay, so that's just in, for Google Docs. Now, if I wanted Google Sheets, I would just simply click here, Google Sheets, and it looks a lot like Microsoft Excel, right? With the columns and the rows. Now, we're on you know, the database portion of the class. There's not necessarily, Google really doesn't have a database program per se that you can use in the cloud. And I'm guessing that that would take a lot of resources to kind of create. But if you think about Google Drive itself is, you know, is like a miniature database, right? Because it's holding all of this stuff. You can actually, create new files, new folders, things like that. And if you look, there's even more. So Google Maps is part of it, Google Jamboard. Even you can do some coding with Google. So it's kind of like a miniature database application itself. Um, so it's all pretty neat stuff. Um, so, but what about the rest of this stuff? Anyone have Spectrum TV or Direct TV or any of those?
I use Spectrum for Wi-Fi. I use Wi-Fi as I guess, a millennial, I guess, or whatever. We don't
Mm,
really do the cable thing. We just kind of get Wi-Fi and then watch
right,
everything
right.
via cable via
Well,
Wi-Fi. So
I
yeah,
think a lot of people are doing that.
that's
And it's not
great.
just a millennial thing. I think a lot of people are doing that. Um,
Cable's expensive for nothing,
It
for no reason.
is. And they keep going up because they're losing market share to like Netflix and Hulu, like the streaming media. So
Hmm.
people are not purchasing cable like they were.
No,
So they keep going up on the prices.
yeah, and we're not going back to that. Mm-mm.
And actually, I've been sitting here like debating about it because I'm like, we have cable, but they keep playing the same stuff. So I think
Mm-mm.
with the Netflix and Hulu, they have new movies coming up. And then I don't have to have all these CDs and stuff sitting around my house. So it's very
Mm-mm.
convenient to have that because then I can just go to one site. I normally let my daughter watch her little learning programs on there. So
Mhm.
it's very convenient to have that. So I was like, I think we'll probably just keep the Wi-Fi and get rid of everything else
I
because
would
I
Nice.
don't
highly
really
recommend
watch it. I think it's a
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, I can be in my house now, and I've never used Netflix or Hulu. I know of them, through family members and things like that. I'm not really a movie kind of person or a show watcher, but I hear it from my nephews and nieces and sisters and brothers, how they really love all of these streaming media, but I'm not really a TV person. So I can sit in my house, and of course I have books. I can sit in my house and the TV won't even come on. You know what I'm saying? So, and I guess, it just depends on, what your situation is. Like with kids, of course, kids are fascinated by anything on a television or on a computer screen. The most screen time that I have is on my laptop, um, dealing something with a class. But if it wasn't, I would just be reading books. Like I'm just a book person. And so, um, what about like Google Maps or Apple Maps? You said that you like the iPhone. Um, is there a contrast between those two? I've never used Apple Maps. I heard it exists, but
don't,
how is it? Oh,
don't, don't. That's the only maps I'll tell you very specifically. I love me some iPhones, except for one flaw. Is
mm,
and it's apparently it's a known flaw because it was on Twitter. I remember one day trending about like jokes about it. So I'm like, okay, it's not just me. Apple
mm,
Maps Now it's probably way better because people didn't stop using it, because I
Mhm.
never used Google Maps up until the one day I was using Apple Maps. It was like 5 years ago. I was downtown Louisville, and I was, of course, literally, I needed to get my face out of my phone instead of, pay attention to the road, face out of my phone. I was at a stoplight, so I'm facing my phone. I had my GPS up, so that's majority why my face was in my phone. So instead of looking up, I knew it was green, but I was following the GPS specifically because I was downtown. Now, had I not looked up from my phone right as I was going green to turn left, I would not have noticed that as I was already turning left into the street, all the cars were facing me. So I was like,
Oh, one-way street.
one way street. The GPS told me to make a left. The street
Oh.
was facing right, all facing me, three, four lanes of
Oh,
cars.
no.
That is the first day I immediately was stopped, closed the app, immediately downloaded Google Apps. I've never not used it since. And funny
Yeah.
enough, there was a whole I would not have believed it was just me had I not. It was like a couple months ago where it was like a hashtag on Twitter, literally about like Apple Maps sucks basically, and it was all the tragic stories. And it was like literally Apple Maps to have you turn right into here, and it was a picture of an SUV and like a river. It was like this will be you in Apple Maps, and I'm like, so it's not just me.
Right,
So
right.
would not recommend at all. One
Yeah.
flaw, mm-mm. Google Maps, excellent. Waze, I remember when Waze came out, I was in Chicago when it came out. So
Mhm.
it was very much it was the GPS with the most stuff, like efficiency with it was the first one to tell you there's a cop right here, there's a light coming up, there's A, B, C,
Oh,
D, and
well.
E. It was the first interactive one where it let people tell, you put other people put in information for other people to know. Now
Mhm.
the thing is, it was so much stuff that was like way more than the average GPS that I couldn't use it for that reason. I was like, all right,
Mhm.
I appreciate you, but way too much going on here.
So
Because
you had that in Chicago.
I had that in Chicago.
Mm.
Since then, I moved back from Chicago in 2018. So since then, Apple Maps has gotten better from what I've heard, to the point where they've actually integrated, Google and Apple Maps have integrated with the Waze system or the Waze efficiency of adding different, segments and whatnot,
Mm.
to theirs. So I think all three are kind of even now, but
Mm.
I'm still not going back to Apple Maps. I'm not trusting.
I hear you. What about you, Sheree?
Here lately, I've been using the Waze um,
Mhm.
instead of the Google Maps, only because Google Map is not really telling me where I have to go. Because I'm like, here lately, I've done a lot of traveling, and it's
Mhm.
not really telling me exactly like which way.
Oh, you went out again. Your voice, I mean, your microphone is off. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Okay.
was just telling her that. Well, I was telling my friend to upload the Waze because she had Waze on. I had the Google Maps, so Google Map didn't really tell me where I need to go, and I'm like, I need to make a left or right real quick, and no one knows which way to go. And I'm like, which way to go? So I just went left.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we're going to just probably use Waze from here on out because Google Maps, I just feel like they need to have a little bit more information on if I'm turning left or right, or if I'm going south or west. And it's not really telling me that. It's like telling me exactly, it's telling you where to go, but it's not saying like when the signs are up and they're telling you to make a, go south or to go west. It's not telling me exactly which way. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's kind of confusing. And I think I mean, and then you're out of state, you don't even know which way to go. So it's really good to know exactly which way to go. Cause I'm like, I can listen to GPS. I'm not really well when people are telling me, go up here, there's going to be a house on a corner. I just can't do directions. So I'm like, GPS.
Yeah. So Waze is
I
a
like ways.
better. Okay.
Yeah, and then normally when I'm going out of town, I kind of speed. So I like to know where the police are because I like to get to my destination. So
Yeah. Oh, bless your heart. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I've never used Waze, but I've heard great things about it. And then you guys are speaking, highly of it as well. So I'll have to try it out. Um, but have you ever had any other emails besides Gmail or Yahoo? Um, anyone ever have Hotmail or you have?
My first email address that I still have, and then people look at me funny when I'll tell them, which is why I don't tell them.
Uh-huh.
I still have my first email address, which is crazedsims2fan@hotmail.com. My first email address ever. I literally still have it to this day. It's where I
Oh,
send
good
it.
for
Yeah,
you.
I
Good for
sure do.
you.
Funny enough, the only reason I got to Gmail, there's always an explanation for something via Google. I swear, there's always something.
Yeah.
Gmail, I got to it because I was too tired. It was pre did I get that second? Okay, so the first new email I got was going to U of L. I got my first school email because prior to that, it was Hotmail, Grayson Sufjan
Yeah.
and Hotmail.
Yeah.
So when I exited school and they shut down your school email, I was like, okay, well, that's when I was telling people I was applying to jobs, and I was like, crazesims2fan at hotmail.com. And people be like, so you're a fan, huh? I was like, so that's when I got my first Gmail because that's when I literally noticed everybody had a Gmail. So I was like,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm gonna just use my school, the school username, but just make a Gmail because that's what my mom
Yeah.
did. It seems to be a
Yeah.
professional thing to do. I don't want to use my
Right.
full name because I'm weird
Right.
about that. So I'll just do that. And then I've had my
Yeah.
Gmail ever since.
Oh, okay. Well, good for you. Yeah, I mean, I've had emails. God, I know I have at least 10 emails.
Mhm.
Um, Different types of emails. So it could be Gmail, Yahoo Mail, it could be
Mhm.
Hotmail. I used to use a dial-up service called People PC, and I had an email on there, and I had to tell it last year because um, it sent me an email to my Gmail, one of my Gmails, and it said, "Well, if you don't use this, we're going to, take it away," basically. So I let them go ahead and take it away. No one was sending me emails to that. And then, like earlier this month, I got an email from my Yahoo account that said it hadn't been used. And if I didn't use it by today, the 29th of July, that it would no longer, be um, available. So some of them are starting to do that now too, where
I didn't
if you
know
don't,
Yahoo did it.
yep, I got one from Yahoo. Because I've got my Gmail account set up as the not emergency contact, but you know what I'm saying? Like I've got it set up to where anything happens with the Yahoo, it'll contact me on the Gmail. So, but a lot of the services are doing that because, you know, I'm thinking that, an unused email is taking up space. It's utilizing resources that they could, use for other folks. So
Probably a
I'm
lot of
just,
memory in the database. They're trying to,
yeah,
literally clear
yeah.
out.
Yeah,
Mm.
and I know I still get email there, but I guess if you don't use it to send email, so I'm gonna log on there today and send a couple of emails, and then I'll be fine for another year.
Well, I guess I need to check mine because I have my Y
Yeah,
mail, but I don't ever send anything from it. So I guess I should probably check
yeah,
mine today. I
I
know it's
would.
still good stuff. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I would at least sign in like every 6 months.
Okay.
Um, and it's weird because, like I said, I still get like my mobile device um, through AT&T. That is my email address on the Yahoo. So they still send me my bill, confirmation and all of that stuff. Anything happens with my account, they'll send it to Yahoo. So I know that it's still receiving emails, but evidently, if you don't use the system to send an email, then, that poses problems too. So you just got to get on there and send an email every so often. So, yeah, I would definitely do that. Um, but there are so many different services out there, but they all could not exist or could not do what they do without there being a database behind the scenes. Okay, just like with KCTCS, when you filled out that application and they sent you information to set up your email account, that created your email account through, at kctcs.edu, right? Well, that follows you for your entire academic career until you get your associate degree, right? And they're able to do that because number one, you give them your social security number, they give you a student ID number, you get your own email address. Okay, and basically every class that you sign up for is tracked in the PeopleSoft Campus Solutions database. So that's how they're able to keep track with what classes you've taken, what classes you've withdrawn from, what's your grade in those classes. Um, if you sign up for financial aid, anything like that, it tracks everything. Your whole experience as a student, it tracks it. So everything we do at the college is database driven. Like I couldn't even imagine not having some kind of database to do all the things that we do for students now. It would be a complete nightmare. So I give kudos to all of my college professors back in the day who did not have databases. We were doing everything pretty much, um, paper oriented, like everything was done on paper. And that was just a catastrophe. I had to stand in lines to sign up for classes. Troy, what about you? I had to stand in lines for 4 hours, 4 to 6 hours, just to get my schedule for the next semester. Now y'all don't have to do that. Y'all can sign up yourself for classes. Troy, what about you? Is he still on here? Yeah, I think he is. Well, I'm sure he'll come back on at some point. But, databases have truly sort of revolutionized the world in which we live today. And without databases, oh, would we be in trouble? We would really, really be in trouble um, because we wouldn't even be able to have these things. Think about that. Can you imagine the gap in your life without Netflix or, you know, social media, having internet? Okay. Um, I was just using Google Maps the other day to go to, where was I going? Somewhere out Shelbyville Road. And I was like, I would never be able to find this on my own. Now, my mom, bless her heart, she's gone on to glory now, but she knew the streets of Louisville, Kentucky, and also Southern Indiana. Um, she could tell you where something was, and I'm like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? And still today, like, she took me to places that, since she left, I've never been back, but she even knew back roads, which I guess back in the day they had to know that stuff. They didn't have, these little apps that we have today to kind of do it for us. You know what I'm saying? They had to know all of this stuff. So, but it just blew me away. This was like 20 years ago, 30 years ago that she knew all this stuff. I was like, whoa, how do you remember?
Well, keep in mind, do you remember when, again, I was younger, which you could not tell anybody younger than me this, but when I was younger, we still had to print out the maps for road trips. I mean, the
Yeah.
MapQuest directions, let alone not a map, because I could never, I was like, I don't know how to do that.
Hmm.
But I could print me out a good MapQuest with the directions to get to Kings Island or wherever we needed to go. I was
Right.
in charge of that, you know?
Right.
Now
I
you don't
get
need that.
Yeah. 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 I guess, and they're good for us, but then again, they're making our brains kind of lazy, right? So people, even now, like, my family, I have 5 siblings, and so we we talk to one another, at some point during the week. But I noticed that no one knows anyone's phone numbers anymore. They'll contact you on Duo or on Messenger by video and or FaceTime, and but they don't know numbers. And that's scary. Like, what if you are not able to get on an app? What if the earth is hit by a solar flare or something, a magnetic kind of field or whatever? What's going to happen? Because nobody knows any phone numbers and nobody has like a home landline home phone anymore. Can you imagine? Like like we would be completely lost. Okay? Even
Absolutely.
even our phones, your mobile device that you have, database, database driven everything from the apps that we use to the phone number itself. There's no physical location for that phone number. So I have friends and family who change phone numbers like most people change underwear. So how you're going to find people? You know what I'm saying? So it's good for us in a way, but then you think worst case scenario, what could possibly happen? You know, and that's kind of scary. But like I have my mom and dad's home phone number because after they passed away, of course, one of us had to take the house. So, I'm in their old house, and so I have the old phone number. And come to find out, that phone number has actually been associated with the house since my mom's grandfather owned the house, like in the 1940s. So it's the same exact number. So I said, oh no, I want to keep that. You know what I'm saying? You know, just for memories, I guess, just thinking that's legacy, but a lot of people don't even have a home phone anymore, right? So, but it's kind of scary. Worst case happens, we're just up a creek. But anyway, so anything else to share about anything that's listed? Cherie, your hands up.
Yeah, and see, that's one reason why I've never changed my phone number. I've been having the same number for over 15 years.
Good
So
for you.
the only reason why is because my sons know my number by heart. So they've
Hmm.
always been able to call me for any type of situation. So
Oh,
that's
how
the
many
only reason
sons do
why I
you
don't.
have?
I have two sons. One is 17 and one's 15. So they know that number by heart. They know that number by heart. So that's the whole reason why I don't change
Yeah,
my number. No
yeah.
matter what, whatever company I go with, I always keep the same number.
Good for you. Yeah, I've had my same number for, gosh, I want to say since like 2000, maybe, you know. And I kept my number because I saw everyone was changing numbers all the time. I'm like, how's anybody going to get in touch with you? You know. Um, and so I get it. Yeah, and especially like when I was a kid, we had to memorize our phone number. You know what I'm saying? Our home phone number. So it's, I think for consistency's sake, that's a good thing for kids, to know a phone number and convert that to memory. You know what I'm saying? I think it helps with their critical thinking too. Um, but yeah, that's awesome.
Now I do see why people change. Well, a lot of people change the number because they get all these different phone calls, and sometimes things end up happening, and you don't want to talk to somebody. But I'm like, the best thing that could have been ever invented on the phone is block. So that
Block.
I use to my
Yes.
advantage. I use block on a regular. I'm like, oh,
Right, right.
and I don't change my number. I don't feel the need to change my number because I don't want to talk to somebody. I just block them and I keep the same number.
Good for you. Yeah. Casey's like, yes, that's me.
I don't ever. I've had this is my second number, and my first number I had up until I literally, I guess, started college because we moved companies, and I wanted to keep the same number, but I couldn't because like the phone wasn't paid off. So my little sister has that phone number. She has my phone number I've had my entire youth up until this one, because this phone number I have now is three numbers off from our four numbers, or three numbers off from my old one. So people still call her or still have that phone number in their phone, and
Yeah.
well, both phone numbers. I just don't know which one to call. So then randomly she'll be like, some person I called or texted me looking for you. I'm like, who was
Mhm.
it? I don't know. What? Okay, that helps me. None. Great.
Yeah.
But I've
Yeah.
never, yeah, I mean, honestly, for safety purposes, like I know people don't, memorize numbers anymore, but I'd rather keep my one phone number for everything that I've literally allocated to it, as opposed
Mhm.
to changing the phone number and re-keep vamping. I'll just block somebody, especially because, spam
Yeah.
calls and robocalls now. It's not like you're going to be able to really avoid,
Yes.
those types
It's
of
a
things.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah. And if anybody really gets on my nerves that bad, block.
Yeah.
That's all it
And
takes.
blocking is actually a database function.
Mhm.
So it's the database with the
Uh-huh.
phone company, they give you the ability to block.
Mhm.
Or they have something new now about spam calls.
Yeah.
So, or phishing calls. So they'll send you a message and says this, and it reads it on your phone, and it says this is probably a spam call.
Mhm.
And so before you
Ah.
even answer it, you can block it.
Okay. When it says spam risk, because it didn't used to do that, but now it'll
Right.
get you the spam risk, possible
Right.
spam. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So your phone number, because it is a digital phone number, it's not, connected to a landline.
Mhm.
They can add all sorts of features to control that number. Okay. And they're all database driven features.
That's
So
a big database. We're
yes,
looking
it
for a
is.
big database and a big log.
It
Whew,
is. It
whew.
is. Yeah. But anyway, so any lingering questions or comments about anything in this for this unit? Develop simple databases. Anything that I can sort of help with or clarify for you? So you have 4 chapters um, for the sim books, and then this is the first unit that you'll have a quiz. Okay, it's not a huge deal. It's a 5 question quiz, just off of the most basic, concepts that were presented in the unit. Okay, nothing really taxing, but and also this will be the first project that you'll have to complete. So don't wait to the end to try to attempt it. You want to try to get it, start on it. Um, Although August the 8th is out there, a couple weeks away, I guess. Or no, now it's 1 week away, right? Because today's the 29th, so it's like a week and a day away. So, but if you have any questions, Troy, are you back? See, he may have lost his microphone, but Troy and I are available to assist you. So if you need any kind of help between now and when this unit is due, just you can call Troy or use that Blackboard Collaborate link in the class, or send either one of us an email. Okay, we look forward to helping you with with the projects if you run into any issues. And it's possible that you can run into some issues, but you have help. You have 2 people that are here to help you if you have any issues. Okay. All righty. Well, thank you, ladies, for joining us today. And we'll see you on Tuesday. Tuesday is our next class meeting, and hopefully then we'll be able to have you know, some sort of interaction with more students. So, thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day and weekend, guys.
All righty.
You
Bye
too.
bye.
Thank you.